it's important for a person that when he learns Torah to read the commentaries by Rashi specifically, because that's accepted by everyone. And then there's obviously the Rambam, Ramban, and several other major commentaries out there, but it's very, very important to learn from Rashi, because that's accepted universally by everyone, Ashkenazim, Sephardim, and so on. Without learning Rashi, a person is blind, deaf, and stupid. And it doesn't matter what they think they understand it, they don't understand it. The Arizal had asked the students to give a Kabbalistic commentary on the Torah, on the Chumash, and after going over one parasha, they came back with huge volumes of commentary, Kabbalistic commentary on a single parasha. And Arizal told them, yes, this is very nice, kol hakavod, but this is not realistic. No one's going to read several volumes on a single parasha. You have to minimize it. You have to, wisdom is shown in less words, not expanding words. You have to show the most amount of information and the least amount of words. That's true wisdom. So limit the words. They limited and limited and limited and limited, and each time they came back to the Arizal, he told them, you have to limit it more, 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 without just, cutting stuff out. Limiting it meaning by saying the same thing in less words. Le'avdil, but Einstein said, if you don't know how to explain something simple, then you don't know it well enough. If you can't explain it to a 4-year-old, then you don't know it. So, long story short, eventually they minimized it to just literally one or two verses, one or two sentences on each sentence. And he's like, Baruch Hashem, you finally arrived at Rashi. Meaning all of the Kabbalists that were giants of giants working on this endless amount of time, minimized, used all of their power and Kabbalah and so on and so forth. Finally, after toiling in it and all types of things, arrived at what Rashi already did 500 years before them. So people simply don't give enough credit to Rashi and the Chachamim during his time and before him, because they think that just because he explained it in a simple way, therefore it's simple. So a person needs to know that the first and most important thing that they need to know is the pshat, simple meaning of what Rashi said that the verse means. Once they know that, then they know the ikal, they know the most important. Now, after that, they could learn further commentaries, and perhaps there's going to be different secrets above and beyond the pshat, but this secrets, this other meanings that you get from it, don't negate. If it comes from a real chacham, or a real sage, then you'll see that it doesn't negate the pshat. It just adds to it. When you build a third or fourth floor, it doesn't destroy the first or second floor. It's just building on top of it. When they say there's 70 faces to the Torah, they're not saying that there is 70 different faces in a sense that they all contradict each other. It's just 70 different floors. And by the way, 70 is just a figuratively speaking number. It doesn't actually mean 70. It's just a big number. There are endless amount of commentaries to the Torah on every single verse. There's a very famous story about the Gaon Vilna that learned with angels one night, and they gave him over 2,500 pirushim, commentaries, and secrets on a single verse in the Torah. So the point is that 70 is just figuratively speaking, and a person needs to know that each one is going to just add another floor, another meaning. It does not contradict the pshat. If it contradicts the pshat, then there's a serious problem. And in most cases, I'd say probably all cases, but let's just try to be humble and say most, because we don't know the entire Torah. In most cases, it simply means that the commentary that contradicts the pshat is wrong. But either way, as far as there are, that's when you read the Chumash. Now, when you are reading the things that are said either directly in the Torah, in the Chumash, or in the Gemara, or by the Sifrei Tzadikim, and they're saying things like the fire of Gehenom is 60 times the fire of this world. That is literal. It's not figurative. It's not a metaphor. It's actually literal. But we still, as human beings, don't actually have the capacity to understand what this literally means. We don't have the capacity of understanding the power of a fire that's stronger than the fire that we have. Because for us, if we just get burned by hot coffee, that's already hell for us. We don't understand something more than this. Maybe you could understand lava to some extent, but that's not, it's not really comprehensible, really, how hot lava really is until something accident happens. So to understand 60 times more than that, it's not humanly comprehensible. It's not understandable. So yes, it is literal, but it's still, we're limited because we're still in human form. When the Torah says that Gehenom is eternal and there's 7 chambers and they cut people up and all the horrible, scary, horrible things that it says, that's all literal. That all means that all means what it says. It's just hard for us to understand the magnitude of it because we're still in human form, and that punishment is happening to a neshama, and so we're thinking, oh, if it's a neshama, that means we don't feel it. That's the mistake. We do feel it much more. We do feel it much more as the neshama. We think that we could only feel because there's a body. No, that's completely wrong. And also there is a thing that they sages, I saw somewhere, that they actually bring the body back with the neshama and punish them together. But that's a conversation for another time. The point being is that the punishments are literal. It's being told in that way because that's the best way for us to understand it, even though we can't understand it completely. But every person that has Yirat Shamayim and is trying to do the will of Hashem will simply get the message. And the message is, do teshuvah. That's the message. The message is, do teshuvah, and you have an obligation to be scared of Hashem. And it makes sense to be scared of Hashem when you understand what you're dealing with here. Even though you don't understand completely, you still understand this is not a place to play with. This is not a being to play with. And that's really the point. It's not to get a person into depression that every time they make a sin, they're going to think about all the fire they're going to go through. The point is to realize, okay, I made a mistake. I have to do teshuvah right away. I have to do something about it. I have to fix it. I have to give tzedakah. I have to do tachanun. I have to ovidui. I have to learn more. I have to learn more musar. I have to not repeat this mistake. I have to do something. The point is not to sit on our butt and just continue making sins, collecting sins like a vending machine, collecting dollars, and never do teshuvah. That's the point. And for all of those who minimize the punishment and use euphemisms, there's a Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit that says they get a special punishment. And actually in the days of the Sanhedrin, they would actually kill them on the spot. So whether it's this guy that you mentioned earlier today or the thousands and thousands of people like him, they are, if not part of the Erev Rav, because we don't know for sure, then they're just stupid. They're just stupid sinners that are creating much more damage with their words than any good that they could ever create in an entire lifetime. And such people, I don't feel bad for, because they create a lot of damage and they destroy neshamot. Thousands and millions of people are continuing to sin because of the foolishness of such people. And it's best to simply run away from such people. We're not allowed to learn from them, not even if what they say is right. Because once a person does such a thing like this, and you know it's a continuous thing, then you know that even his truth is tainted with falsehood, and therefore not allowed to learn from such a person. The Gemara says if a person that's knows a lot of Torah, But even if he has bad midot, you're not allowed to learn from him. So kal vachomer, needless to say, if there's falsehood in the things that he says, because he's using euphemisms and different things to minimize the punishment, to minimize the yirat shamayim that we're obligated to have, such people are heretics in the Torah, and there is a special place in Gehinom for them, which we went over during the Shir of Gehinom. The point is to be scared is a ma'ala, it's a significance, it's an accomplishment. That's why Shlomo HaMelech and David HaMelech, his father, write it many, many times, and the sages write it all over the Torah of how great it is for a person, how praiseworthy is a person that has Yirat Shamayim. Why? Because now he actually has a chance. He has a chance to be a tzaddik. He has a chance to get to Olam Haba. No Yirat Shamayim, he has zero chance. So, most important thing that a person needs to do in his life is to verify things and read the books of previous generations. Don't spend so much time, and money on books that are written by people today. Even if I wrote a book, I wouldn't buy it. Why? Because why would I buy the book of some guy who wrote today? Buy a book from Rashi, buy Rambam, buy Mesilat Yesharim 300 years ago. Buy the real tzaddikim, unless I know that the person that wrote today, his entire book is full of sources from those other books, and it's very, very little of his own opinion, if any at all. Then okay, maybe. But most books today are full of opinions and very, very little substance from the Chachamim. You understand? So once you actually already go to the books that were written by real Chachamim from just even a simple previous generation, one generation, 15, 20 years ago, very, very different from the comic books that are written today. You see that they're full of sources, they're full of Gemara, they're full of Tosfot, they're full of Rambam, they're full of Rashi, they're full of Zohar, they're full of all these amazing things, meaning that they didn't necessarily give you their own opinion for the most part. What they did is they compiled. They gave you a thought, and after compiling all of the proofs, and they provided you all the proofs too. And that's actually why, by the way, the Rambam's work was nearly rejected by his generation because he didn't provide sources. But once they read it and they saw that it is the source, and everything has a source of what it says, it's not from his own thoughts, then they accepted it. And obviously he was the Gdol Hador and the biggest posek in the last 1,000 years. But the point being is that everyone learned from that, and they provide sources for what they say, until this generation where they write you 20 pages with, of opinion with 1 point of source for only 1 point out of the 20 pages. So it's better to make sure that everything you read has sources, every verse, every line, everything, and that way you're always going to arrive at the truth that our holy sages arrived at, and therefore you eliminate your own yetzara, you eliminate your own opinion, you eliminate all of that stuff. Why? It's more important to arrive at the truth than our own opinion. Once you have the truth, then your opinion itself over time will actually by default become Da'at Torah, will become the opinion of the Torah, and therefore then your opinion is kosher. At that point, Ashrecha, then you have a straight mind, and you become a Kodesh Kodeshim, and you have nothing to worry about. But until you arrive at Da'at Torah, you have to stay away. You have to keep yourself away from damaging yourself. You have to protect yourself from yourself. And all of those people that think that their opinion could dare be in competition with the opinion of the sages of even the simple one generation before us, not just Rashi from 900 years ago, just one generation. Go to the generation of Avigdor Miller. Go to the generation of the Khatam Sofer, the Chafetz Chaim, Arab Ovadia. Go just a few years ago, and you think that your little book that you wrote and sold however many copies and made yourself rich with it, you think that can negate anything before you? You're going against the Torah with that type of an opinion. So that's why it's important for a person to be humble. That's why the Ramban writes Negeret HaRamban, that humility is the most important and most valuable character trait to have. Why? Because once a person has humility, then he can become a vessel for learning Torah. But when you see these speakers or authors, you know, spewing their venom of opinion without having a source to speak of, this by default should give you a red flag the size of the equator to run away from these people, because it's very dangerous to decipher what's the truth within the shekel. What's the truth within the lies? And who has time for that? Just go straight to a book, get to someone that's verified by all of the people in his generation and the generations after. It's already verifiably true. We don't need to take a risk, something that may not be true, may be true, may not. Let's just go to something that's verifiably true, and that's it. That way you stay away from any safek, from any doubts, and B'ezrat Hashem, arrive at Da'at Torah, and that's how you teach your children to have Da'at Torah, and you teach your wife to have Da'at Torah, and then B'ezrat Hashem, all of you go have eternal goodness, wonderful time in this world, wonderful time in the next world. Why? Because you humbled yourself to just become a vessel. Become a vessel for Da'at Torah. All I want to do is what Hashem wants. And look how I'm winning. Look how I'm winning with what Hashem wants. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's difficult because the Yetzer Hara constantly tells us, no, but maybe this, but maybe this, but maybe this, but maybe this. But when a person says, listen, what maybe? Who am I to have even a maybe? The more humble a person is, the more it becomes a bigger vessel for Da'at Torah, and then he has a wonderful life. Wonderful life. Why? Because everything has an answer then. Once you've accepted the opinion of the sages, then there's an answer for everything. So there's no debates, there's no nothing. It's just that you have to get to the answer. It takes time sometimes to get to the answer, but there is an answer. But once he doesn't accept the sages, and only sometimes accepts the sages, then he's a danger to himself and to society. Why? Because his truth is not to be found. It's subjective, it's objective, it's something, it's nothing, it moves, it's dynamic. His truth constantly moves from place to place, and it's never verifiable, and it's never something you can rely on. It's never reliable. It's a danger. It's no different than L'Avdil. It's no different than Christianity or Islam, or worshiping cows, or being a Zionist that shoots other Jews because he thinks that their purpose of Zionism is more important than the purpose of life. And Nazis and all the Goyim and Esav and Edom and all of it, it's no different. And in fact, probably even worse. Why? Because he has the neshama of a Jew, and the neshama of a Jew has a lot of power. So that's why it's very, very important for a person to just simply be simple. Tamim tiyeh Hashem. Be like Noach. Tamim tiyeh Hashem. Be simple, accepting, whole, complete. Meaning, I completely accept the word of Hashem. I completely accept the word of his sages as if he said it himself. I completely accept it even if I don't agree with it. Even if it doesn't make sense to me. Even if it goes against my logic, because my logic is tainted with Yetzer Hara. I accept it. Why? Because it's the emet. Even if I don't understand how it's the emet, it is the emet indeed, and I trust that Hashem will show me how it is at some point or another when I deserve to get it. But that's a person that needs to know, that's it. This is it. This is emet. This is from Hashem. Hashem instilled power in his sages to deliver his emet, generation after generation after generation, for thousands of years, so you and I and our families can be Kedoshim to you, holy. Why? Ki kadosh ani. Be holy because I am holy, as Hashem says in Parashat Kedoshim. So, Be'ezrat Hashem, this gives you a little bit of chizuk to continue chasing the emet the way the emet is supposed to be chased, and not let your Yetzer Hara and other people's Yetzer Hara get in the way of telling you, oh, maybe there's this, or maybe, no. Let's see, what is the accepted truth? Yeah, but the accepted truth is not relevant. It may be not relevant to your mind, but if they said it, it's relevant. And that's it. And that's the way a person needs to go about things. Hashem does teshuvah every day, and that's it. Honestly, one of the best Musar books in the world is the Siddur. If we only understood what we're saying, we do teshuvah every day just by simply praying in the morning. You read just the first few prayers right in the morning before Shema Yisrael, before Hodu. Throughout the whole prayer, you see what it says over there. Shem Yachem, a person really understands those words, what kind of teshuvah you be able to do. Bezrat Hashem, we start learning more and more what the sages meant to say, the way it's supposed to be said, because that's Dvar Hashem. That's the words of Hashem. Atzlacha Rabbah, and Bezrat Hashem, keep me posted. Kol Tov.